This is Past the Rock.
Whoa, coming to you from only two locations this time. We are still past the rock, as the intro lets you know, but Cap Eton is out of office this week, so it'll be the Inmates show. Always a good one to get every now and again.
Oh,
It's important that we're trusted with the most responsible duties, that we have to take the most hard hitting content and we have to deliver on it. So without too much further ado, we're going to get started in the Rangers world right now.
Hit me with it. What's happened in this Rangers world?
Well, technically, we should be talking about free agency or trade. There was a trade announced today. I don't have a single clue who even any of the two players or involved were. I am familiar with cash considerations.
No.
A lot of people talk about Prime being able to play every sport. Nobody talks about cash considerations like that. But, well, that's a different story for a different day. The real story for the Rangers is they lost out on Pete Alonso. The Orioles did do that.
Yeah. As soon as free agency hit and I've seen what the Rangers were doing with getting rid of players, I kind of threw out any hope that we were going to get in. We're going to be
Patrick did warn us that we're broke boys. He said he didn't say it, but he said it.
Yeah, which I'm just like, come on, man. You couldn't capitalize on all that merch you sold when you won the World Series.
How much did they sell? I still haven't bought my gold jacket, unfortunately, or my gold jersey. So, oops. I've let the team. I paid my $100 fee to. They tried to go against the evil empire. By the way, the Dodgers have signed another decent pitcher, from what I understand.
Yep, they went out.
I saw one where a baseball card with them signing Mickey Mouse, bro. They've got everybody.
Yeah. So they went and got Edwin Diaz, and if you're not familiar with him, you might be familiar with his entrance because he is a closer. So closers get like that cool entrance music. He was with the Mets. He had the nice little trumpet like live performance. Like they got a real trumpet player out there, played him out. It was real cinematic. I don't think they ended up winning that game if I remember, but I'm not sure. He is a really good coach. He's a really good coach.
Well, that makes me hurt even more because we're only a year away from them stealing Kirby Yates from us. And that was, Kirby's job here, and he was really good at it. And it was like, oh, they got a closer now. And then now he gets, he just doesn't play for the last however month of the season, and including the title run. And then now all of a sudden they've got the Mets guy. So what a fucking world.
You think the oil guy who runs this team that's where his money comes from, right? Oil?
The Rangers guy?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Yeah,
I feel like he's an energy guy. Like you would think with the rising prices of energy, he'd have a little bit more money just throw around.
Yeah,
build a team.
Probably it's always poor me when it comes to the ownership in sports, right? It's so hard to be rich. But speaking of people who live their lives entirely filthy rich, almost like, well, bankruptcy is like a oopsie get out of jail free card. So in the most Inmates way possible, R.I.P. Tom Hicks. Almost said Hanks, but that would have been a different podcast. Tom Hicks, former owner. If you're a DFW sports fan, you will have known this name a bit. Probably not. Unless you're an older one, though, for sure, because he definitely faded out quickly. I didn't even think about how short a time I really had watching sports under Tom Hicks.
Yeah.
But he was a big fat stacks guy, basically told his general manager to spend money once they got to Dallas from Minnesota, and resulted in the 99 championship. Stars haven't been able to do that since. But things have gotten much better, obviously, post Tom Hicks in this new era, more consistent at least. That team obviously went into bankruptcy in 2011 as a part of some of the story we've been following with the dispute between the Stars and the Mavericks. So that was an interesting one. Of course, he was also part of the was the Rangers owner for a very long time. I think, if I'm understanding correctly, he would have been who bought it from W. So
I believe so. Yeah.
That fits the timeline. There might be some random shit in a little bit, but W basically owns it until he gets into public office, sells it to his boy Tom Hicks. Tom Hicks is the guy who ends up signing A-Rod to that fucking monstrosity of a deal that we ended up paying part of while he wins the 07 championship with the Yankees. I think it was the one they won. So that, I'm not trying to show him the guy. I'm just saying these are facts. He made a lot of money, and he owned 50% of Liverpool FC. That's notable. So both the Rangers and Liverpool were sold in 2010 as a result of his debts, and then the Stars were the last one. But bankruptcy is, it's oops, I'm sorry, and then you just kind of got to get rid of some shit. Was a Texas undergrad and then a USC grad, or undergrad school and then grad school at USC. So that's a weird combination you don't see very often, I feel like, or you don't hear talked enough about.
He must have had a tough time in 2005.
Not at all. He was a big Texas booster. He's got a baseballs. So I don't think that he cared. I think that what he loved about USC was having relationships with people in Los Angeles that he could go back and forth with at all times. You know what I mean? It'd be my guess. That'd be my read. I'd also love to know how he interacted with the Liverpool fans anytime he went over to old England and met. I don't know if you know much about Liverpool, but Liverpool that's rough and tumble. More blue collar city than some of your others, and England.
I think I remember being told that about Liverpool. I remember, when back in the day we used to have a British boss. I asked her about some of that stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
And I didn't. I never really asked questions like that. I don't. I'm probably not a great person for that. But what did she say?
I pretty much what you were saying, and I asked her. So I asked her, about some parts of England, like certain parts of London. And then I was like, I'm familiar with some places in England that maybe other people don't know. And she's like, oh, what? And I'm like, I know that Blackpool exists. And she's like, oh, that's a shithole.
Yeah. No,
but she said it in that posh accent that she had.
Yeah, she has a really posh British accent. So I don't know where she actually was from in England. But Liverpool is fun. I can always tell because I just knew too much about the Beatles, still know too much about the Beatles. And it's not too different than like the American South in the way that English is spoken. The variation of English, I do feel like those two are spiritually kin to each other. It's a lot of mush mouth and yeah.
I can tell you right now, I know this is mostly a sports podcast, but learning about linguistics through, rabbit holes that you get on the internet, the southern accent, right, came from there.
Oh yeah,
so people from that
aristocratic, like Victorian era England, because that was like the slave road.
No, I'm talking about like that Liverpool area, from what I remember. Specifically
Liverpool.
Yeah, that general area. So anything that was like the working class came over here, still working class. Right. And as time progressed, the accent, not that it changed, but it just slowed down. Like people slowed down the way that they talked, right? And it just became a little bit more exaggerated. And then eventually you get this southern accent that you see on in the deep south and the east.
In the southeast you get the draws.
So like your Carolinas and stuff, like that's where that comes from. That Carolina accent, that's where that came from. And then further south, there's more deviations here and there.
I like to think of the Texas accent as the John Wayne accent. Everybody sort of talks like John Wayne here. Like there's in its different levels of twang depending on each person's twangometer. Like some people put and there's a lot of code switching with the twang, so the twang can like adjust as necessary for a lot of folks here. But I do feel like most of us talk like a John Wayne variant, including myself.
For sure, man.
I do feel like I hear it in my own voice a lot.
I consciously turn on the twang whenever I have to take care of certain people. I'm like, twang on. Go.
I used to do that when I was serving. I don't do that anymore. In fact, if I'm ever doing that, I think my wife starts to cringe because I'm usually being a smartass about some Southern bullshit, some stereotypical crap that is happening in the world or something. I'm usually mocking something. But moving from dead owners and dead championship teams into basketball, which I did not grab a graphic for, but I don't know which one. This one, we'll just do Jerry, Evil Jerry. The NBA is getting isty with it behind me right now. This is day 2 of the first round of the IST. The Magic and the Heat played last night. Magic started off really nicely, then Desmond Bain got hot, and the Heat started off nicely, and then Desmond Bain got hot, and the Magic kicked their ass. And then they will be playing the Knicks, who basically pulled away from the Raptors at halftime. Looking like a good team. Interested to hear them being so heavily rumored with the Giannis trade stuff. And it seems like it's almost like the guys are like, oh, I'm going to play my hardest. I don't want to break up the band now. Thunder Suns is happening behind me. I don't have any clue what the score is. It's probably getting close to halftime by now. Lakers Spurs is later tonight. The culmination of that will be next week in Vegas. I think the only thing about the IST, I guess 2 things. So yesterday was weird. They started basketball like 5:30 Central Time because both games were Eastern. They filled out the Eastern bracket yesterday for whatever reason, and the Western bracket today. And it's like, it's a little weird, but okay, whatever. The only thing, I'm fine with them hyping up the IST. I'm hyping with whatever, the courts, whatever.
Yeah. I
feel like there's one thing about traditional playoffs that we got to actually cut out of all the promos and all the talk around it. The winner go home thing.
Right.
Hard to sell the winner go home angle
when you still have so much season after this. Keeps going. That is a little ridiculous, right?
I don't think they really have thought that much about it, so I'm not killing them. But I do think it's probably like best to just not try to use those versions of sportsisms. I know that they're very normal when it comes to tournament like things. Elimination games, but like everything but that one, I think would make us just a lot simpler.
Yeah. Although I guess if I'm looking at it from their angle, because I'm assuming they're taking the path of least resistance, or maybe they're just being a little lazy with it because.
Yeah, my guess is they're just kind of if it's the announcers and stuff, this is them just being trained in these moments. This is how I have to hype it up. But when they make the promos for it, the stuff they've clearly put a team on and worked with for many days, potentially, or weeks. Yeah, that stuff is just not necessary there.
It's not, and like there's other ways to hype it up. I get it. I get that you want to make it feel like, this is this grand thing. It's very important because you got to establish the importance of this now, so that way 20 years from now, 30 years from now, if the IST is still going on, now it has a little bit more prestige.
Especially because it's Amazon Prime, right? Like this is Amazon's product now. Like they host all of it. Moving forward.
But it's not winner go home. You got to find something else, and I'm sure that the team that they pay for this is getting paid well enough to like, hey, please figure it out. If it's on the announcer side, though, I can forgive them. I mean, it's probably just like at this point, just.
And there's been some good attempts. Like the people who are taking the angle of this money means a lot to the guys who are just floating around the league, or even the fact that a lot of these teams will pull it up and give it to the trainers, the coaches, whatever it is. There's a feel-good story around that. And if you're like Oklahoma City, there's just everything about what they're doing is interesting right now because they are potentially at this point already neck and neck with the Golden State Warriors the year that they almost won, or the year they did beat the Bulls record.
Yeah.
So anything they do is a big deal. So it's an easy sell this year.
I did want to ask you, because I came across something very interesting, not to derail this, but I came across something very interesting. earlier today regarding the Oklahoma City Thunder, and in relation to that record-setting Warriors team. Actually, the year after, because that record-setting Warriors team didn't have Durant, if I remember correctly.
The record-setting team was the year, it was the
prior
year
to
before.
Durant. Yeah, so this is the thing that I wanted to kind of bring up to you and have a little bit of discussion, just because I do admire what Oklahoma City is doing. They are just a few hours up 35 for us.
Yeah, and honestly, because of that reason, they almost didn't exist.
Yeah, and what I saw leads me to wonder if this is something that can be sustained throughout the year. But someone had presented this statistic that showed how dominant they were with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander off the court. Now, this is not like an anti-Shea stat. This is just a look how deep this team is kind of a deal, the way they framed it. And it was a plus 16 rating when he is off the court. And then they compared that to the team with Durant, which is considered one of the best teams ever assembled. And when they showed what it was like when Steph was off the court, I thought to myself, there is no way like that, because they still would have had KD, Clay, Draymond, and everybody else on that team. And it was a plus 0.2, right? And I was just like, is Oklahoma City really that dominant? Because for the audience that does not know, I've been last season really burned me off the NBA, and it's going to take me a minute to get back eventually. But
my next news report isn't going to necessarily be helpful to that, but go ahead.
Oh yeah, but I wanted to bring this up to you because you're way more plugged in. How dominant is this OKC team this year? Because I haven't bothered to check
people
how they're doing.
Up with all kinds of things. That stat I would only have an issue with, not because it's not right. Because yes, I do think, and you're saying they looked at the statistics of the first Warriors team,
that
Warriors team.
That first KD Warriors team. Yes.
I would want to use the second. First of all, I think that's probably, if you're going to just go for potency, I think the second one was more potent than the first one. But when it comes to the creating the difference there, I think that there's a lot of variables that are different with that team, especially the way that Steph and movement mattered more. It's not, again, to be negative to Shea. It's just Mark Daigneault has just established super Spurs basketball. Like, this team is a machine. It does actually operate more without the star player than it should. And I don't know how much information they have on Duncan. Maybe that would be another guy, but how much did Duncan ever really miss time is a tough one. I mean, there is on and off the court, obviously, with him, but either way, Duncan is a really interesting one, and that what I would really compare to as well. But this is a really tough team to play. Sam Presti, Blake Griffin, before this started, he made a joke about how Sam Presti improved the team and didn't do anything with them this year. Just didn't touch it, just let it marinate. And I think that's really a slap in the face to a lot of the logic, including from myself, where I thought they weren't really ready last year because they didn't cash in the chips. I thought they needed to cash in the chips on a guy like Cam Johnson or something like that. Something not crazy, not like Giannis big necessarily, but something that would just take a couple of these role players, cash them in for a proven guy that's on a good contract. And they didn't do that. Instead, they've kept a deep rotation of young guys, and they won a title with it, and now they're destroying the league with it, which defies a lot of logic. But I do have the caveat of Sam Presti gaming the system in the correct way. I do wonder if there's a team that can live up to the hype this year in the playoffs, where I felt like they didn't actually get that opportunity. And what I mean by this is the New York Knicks specifically. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's other rosters that will improve themselves by the end of the season that make me feel like this, but the Knicks should have won a title last year and competed for it for sure. And they let themselves down big time. Thibodeau, whoever you want to blame it on, they let it down. So as great as Oklahoma City is, I think that it does show you also how mid the league is. Rich Paul went on his new podcast and was like, the Lakers kind of suck low key though. even though they've got a great record. They're
Yeah.
playing good basketball, and he's fair for saying that just because the Lakers do have they're playing really good regular season basketball, but they have some really fatal flaws that feel like obviously a team like Oklahoma City would pick out, and Oklahoma City did run them down when they played this season. So it is one of those things where it's just maybe they are so much better than everyone else at the same time that maybe some of these decisions don't matter. And I think Daignault deserves as much credit as SGA. And all those role players deserve a lot of credit because it's football. It's the way you should play basketball, but it's like we don't play that in the NBA a lot because we don't trust a lot of guys, and a lot of guys don't have the work ethic to go this deep every night. And it's more of a football thing. It's a next man up trope that works in the NFL, works in college football, doesn't always work very well in basketball because there can be just massive leaps from the starter to the bench guy, or even other bench players at times. So, they're incredible, but it's interesting also just to see if they're going to chase this thing. I mean, that it feels like they don't even have to chase it. It feels like they just naturally could go 74, whatever the math is.
Yeah, I'm looking at the record now. I didn't know they were 23-1. Jeez.
Yeah, and they're dusting the Suns right now without Devin Booker, but whatever. I mean, they are also, here's another stat for you, the second most injured team technically by one stat by missed games. They do have two guys basically missing most of the season, so that heavily weighs on it. But they've had a lot of fluctuation with their actual roster. Their starting five isn't playing right now. They started without Jalen Williams for the season. It's laughable. So I think as far as running the regular season, yeah, these guys got it. And I'm sure they'll be the IST champions at the end of this little tournament they're doing. A team that I do actually have a lot of positive things to say about when we get to talking more about basketball again, but the Mavericks have looked better. The Mavericks, Cooper Flagg mostly has looked better. He's got a new sidekick who's honestly incredible with the little Nimhard that could. So every couple things going great. AD looks good, and he's forced to play the 5. That's awesome. That's kind of like a gift that keeps on giving. But the reason why is because Derek Lively has been missing a lot of time.
And well, now
plenty of questions about why and how long. And thankfully, at least this time, mercifully, Mavericks fans get the news. The unfortunate part is it's not the news they probably wanted. He'll be shut down for the rest of the season. This does linger a little bit into how he was managed under Nico Harrison, but I don't know how much to blame Nico is more than what we've already said about overhauling the training staff. That probably also weighs heavy against it. There's a real worry here too about the
training staff feels.
Yeah, I mean, there's a real worry here about the future of Derek Lively's career. And I mean, not only is he going to miss out on big money, which he was going to most likely be due this offseason, he's going to be in a position where, whether you like the kid or not, he's going to be in a position for them to move on from at a moment's notice in the offseason. And so I do feel really bad for him. And obviously his personal situation was tough there last year. And so, perseverance is a big one. Obviously, I think it's another maybe good reason to have some of these veteran guys on a team like this instead of just blowing it sky high and then making Cooper and this Nimhard kid sort of sift through rotational players while Lively is just sort of stuck in the background of things, or whoever else you really like for the future.
Yeah, and I think the one positive that Derek Lively has going forward, right? If I'm going to look at this from an optimistic point of view, which is really hard for me to do with this team, but I'm going to try my best. You look at it, he is still an incredibly young player, right? So that is one of those positive traits where, like, this isn't a guy who has a lot of wear and tear in terms of, like, minutes played. time played in college and in the pros. Granted, he has dealt with injuries, but it's more likely like the youth is on his side. He's going to be able to heal a lot quicker than say an Anthony Davis, who has a lot of the wear and tear from just his time spent in the league and in college, high school, all that. So if you want to put on your optimistic cap, that's one way of looking at it. And two, well, now that Nico's out of the building, right after the season, hopefully whoever they find to essentially start steering the ship, whoever's going to run the team now, they go out and they really do invest again in an elite training staff. Where you find them, how you get them, I'm not sure. But
just
where there's a will, there's a way.
Active. Yeah, I think unfortunately for everyone hired under Nico Harrison, they're going to be assumed to have been underqualified because he seemingly preferred to have his people. And that's unfortunate for some of those people who may not deserve that and may have just actually been worthy of the jobs that Nico hired them for. But obviously there's going to be skepticism. And if there's underperformance or if there's these lingering things, it becomes a fireable offense, as we're going to learn when we get to college football. Fireable offenses.
Yeah. And so, you don't want people, for the most part, to lose their jobs and have this like tainted reputation because of one particular person like Nico Harrison. But that's just kind of the name of the game in the professional sports realm. So that's it, though. Hopefully, whatever happens, if there's a new training staff or maybe there's just a new head trainer, they just help or they implement a program that keeps the players healthy, gets these players back on track. Sure, the development of Derek Lively will have been stunted because of these injuries. However, he's still young enough, and let's be realistic. Looking at this team going forward, I don't know how much pressure there'll be to brush him back. I mean, you're not exactly winning games right now. I don't know when you will start actually being in a position to win games that matter. So that might also help him, take his time and not feel the need to be ready on day one of training.
No, I mean, I think shutting him down and announcing it quickly was another good faith gesture by the ownership and the team to be like, okay, look, can't really make up for the big deal, and we're trying to fix this thing. There's a lot of holes in the ship. We're getting to them as we can. And this one, hey, sorry, this needs to be taken more seriously than it has been, so it's going to be now. Final news in the hoops world: LeBron James, another legendary streak comes to an end. Numbers: 1,297 regular season games. I say that because we go from Mavs to this, and Mavs fans used to have only one personality trait before Luka, and it was the 2011 championship. Now that's kind of back to it. So of course you'll remember LeBron was held to 8 points in the finals game. So there you go, Mavericks fans. You're not being ignored. At the same time, gargle a dick. LeBron James had a great record going. It is not a false record, but it is fair to point out that it was regular season games. From 2007 in January to 2025, he had not been held to less than 10 points. Had 8 points after a really shitty night shooting in Toronto. Decides, takes the ball on a one-on-one ISO. You know what I mean? LeBron to the bucket. No reason to think he won't pull up and try something that's probably not ideal. Maybe go for more of drawing the foul than attempting to maybe get a hard bucket there. Instead, drives in, defense collapse, as they probably should. It's Toronto, and it's LeBron James with the game on the line. This is a history. Everyone in the crowd is understanding why the defense collapsed. Kicks the ball out to Rui Hachimura, hits the game-winning three. So LeBron not only breaks his streak, but he breaks it in typical fucking LeBron fashion. Of course, he did the anti-Skip Bayless to do it. So that was beautiful and funny, and I think we covered it from about every angle you can. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you haven't seen LeBron yet this season, it's not necessarily that he's a completely different player, but this is probably the most regressed version of LeBron we've ever seen. That being said, he's still a triple-double machine. Now it's just him hanging out on the wing and just, let me casually get to 10 rebounds. Let me casually get to 10 assists. Oh, shit, I need some points. Okay, here we go. Let me get a couple. Okay, I got 10 points. All right, now I'm working on other stuff tonight. And hey, that's kind of fun. I don't know what it's going to do to his overall averages, but I think it's kind of fun. And who knows, if he stays a Laker, maybe he's sixth man of the year next year if he stays.
Maybe. And listen, he is
funny. Old LeBron's funny.
And he's still freaking huge. He's bigger, stronger than 90% of the league.
No, I mean, honestly,
old LeBron can play bully ball if he really wants to.
The only ugly thing you have to talk about with LeBron, and this isn't a conversation for this year because it doesn't matter now, but even if it's in LA, if it's anywhere else, it doesn't matter. It's the same question. What is LeBron's basketball salary legitimately? That's a difficult question to answer, and I bet it's probably number one question on everyone's mind in Los Angeles right now, because what do you do? I don't believe that this is worthy of the $60 million a year, but it's still LeBron James. So it's I don't want to disrespect LeBron James. I get what I'm paying for. At the same time, I have the hardest salary cap in all of sports now. And my fucking rules for getting better is basically just finite. It's basically now you just have one of two choices more or less, instead of all these array of options you can to get better. These teams only have so many, and now you have this Luka Doncic clock that's ticking. And so I just find it very interesting there. And if he does decide to move on from the Lakers, then it's oh, great. I would love to add LeBron to my team. How much does it cost me, right? So just a lot of interesting questions there. None of them that matter for this season, unless some sort of crazy trade happens. But that part I don't suspect. All right. Now we're going to move on to college football. I know I said we're going to start with the championship games, but I'm actually going to go ahead and do the news first, okay? Because this will be a quick rundown, and then we'll get to the main news of the day. I'm going to go ahead and spoil the news, but just let it simmer, and we'll talk about it at length when we get to it.
All right.
That's my cue. I don't think you noticed, but we have a different header now. All right. Billy Napier has been hired as the James Madison head coach for your college football team there. Bob Chesney is now the head coach at UCLA. He's probably taken a decent amount of the staff with him. Billy Napier, pretty cool coach to fall on to. I mean, I kind of wanted North Texas to do it. They went with Neil Brown. No, not too worried about that one there. We'll see what the future really tells us with that one. But Billy Napier is an interesting coach. I really think Florida went poorly for a lot of reasons. But I do feel like if there's one of the coaches that can rehab himself and get back to the Power Four quickly, it's probably him. Alex Mortensen, promoted from interim to the head coach at UAB. He replaced Trent Dilfer. He's the son of Chris Mortensen, the late Chris Mortensen. Dion poaches a head coach to be his next offensive coordinator, a guy from Sacramento State. Also, I believe their intention is to try to take the 4-star receiver that's at Sacramento State and bring him up to Colorado or to Boulder as well.
Interesting.
That'll be a big one for Dion.
I was going to say, is Sacramento State football putting up points in the FCS?
I would say that they're an interesting program. I don't know enough about the FCS to really feel like I have authority on that. But if this is the swing that they're going to take, knowing that this is the question of how many swings do they have. It's a big one because they need something. Dion needs something. And if anything, he also might need a replacement. And so we've had fun with the Dion experience. I don't think he's a bad coach, but I think now we've leveled out on where he actually is and that he shouldn't be involved in fucking Cowboy rumors. He shouldn't be involved in fucking Bama rumors. Like, Dion is just going to have to grind it out at Colorado. It's a good D1 gig. It's not the best. If he does well there for a couple of seasons, gets this thing right, he could go bigger. But the reality is, it doesn't seem like he might be that motivated. So he might just be motivated to get Colorado back to being decent, which might take a little longer. And Shador was a good stimulus package, but they're going to need more. Yeah. Penn State gets their guy. This would have been the biggest news of the week, but of course today exploded.
They got little brothered again.
Yeah, Matt Campbell from Iowa State.
That's a good hire. I think
it's an interesting hire. I don't hate it.
So this is why I say it's a good hire. Because I think he's going to be a transition coach. Okay, you need somebody who's going to stabilize the program, right? He essentially is going to be what's his name? Bill
O'Brien.
Oh my God. Yeah, Bill O'Brien. He's essentially going to play the Bill O'Brien role, right? Because
some people didn't like it was better, obviously, than
I mean, he's inheriting something a lot better than what Bill O'Brien
having a diddler for a best friend for 30 years.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously the circumstance is a little different. But you look at what Matt Campbell did at Iowa State with what level of recruits he could bring there, right, into that Pacific Conference. It wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad job. You think, well, he's going to have access. He's going to have better resources. He's going to have access to better level of athlete at Penn State. So you think, hey, maybe this is a guy with a high floor. Maybe not a high ceiling, but he could stabilize the program until we can find somebody who has that high ceiling. The floor's already been raised up, so it's like, all right, the bottom's not going to fall out anytime soon. So, hey, thank you, Matt Campbell, for doing what you did. There's the door. Here's some money, and in comes the hot new candidate. And I think
that's possible.
This is the damage control hire. This is what I think that is, because they clearly make fools of themselves with how they went about this entire process.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for sure. About Matt Campbell. He is his own fan base, as much as anyone, loves to make fun of him. Well, his old fan base, the Iowa State fans, love to make fun of his hat. He is, I don't know how much, if you're not from the American South, you probably don't deal with this too much, or unless you're like from fucking Ohio, where you're like trying your hardest to be Southern, but why? It's not that fun anyway. But he bends his hat.
Yeah.
So, like he does the full, like, looking like a telescope on his head that he's like, and so, they love making fun of him. And then there's a great video. This is for any of the Big Ten fans out there. Great video of an Iowa State fan, assumingly, wearing the jersey, calling him a pussy or a bitch or some awful thing. And then Matt Campbell just fucking instantly blowing his fucking top. And then all the assistant coaches having to, like, drag him out. It was like him leaving a game or him heading into a game, wherever they're walking the lines to the buses or wherever. Awful video for him, but funny for us. Memphis hires Charles Huff from Southern Miss. Good luck, Charles. I don't know much about you, but
wait, who's the guy? Because I remember somebody hired a coach that was really awful. What's this guy's name?
Charles Huff.
Charles Huff. I think this might be the guy.
Southern Miss.
Charles Huff record.
I know I saw a tweet about him instantly trying to get all the Mizzou alumni in the building, which that tells me a lot about their NIL situation, I feel like.
No, it wasn't Charles Huff who has the abysmal record.
They don't-
Somebody with an abysmal record got a better job, and I don't know how they did it, and I don't remember the name.
Well, is it Jimmy Rogers at Wazoo? Wazoo hasn't won enough games, but they've been pretty decent throughout this whole weird pack 12 to 2 to 10 to 16 to 5 to whatever 11.
I don't know if it's Jimmy Rogers, but I did want to talk about the Jimmy Rogers hire in relation.
He's the Cyclones guy now.
Yeah,
But
he's the new Cyclones head coach. And now here is something. Oh no, Jimmy Rogers has a great record as a head coach. No, what I wanted to talk about in relation to this is I saw a theory put out there with how quickly Wazoo and Penn State moved in on their coaches, or specifically how quickly Penn State and Iowa State moved, right? So Penn State
tandem, basically.
They basically make their coaches and hire. Somebody put out there, I don't remember what member of the media put out there, the idea that this was the hire that they wanted on along. And so they essentially worked with Iowa State, gave them a heads up, like, hey, we're going to do this after the season. And I don't really take too much credence into it because, listen, they tanked their own recruiting class this way, doing it the way that they did. So I don't believe it 100%. But I do believe that they gave Iowa State some sort of a notice, like low-key, and that way Iowa State can go and identify their next head coach. And that's why they were able to get Jimmy Rogers so quickly.
Yeah, I do completely agree with that. I think that is it's telling. It's why the NBA makes these guys not report free agent deals within like certain limits now, because everyone realized how nefarious they were, just blatantly not following the tampering rules set in place. And there are no tampering rules here. So it's very much expected to be doing this. Look, it's the wild, wild west. Everyone's going to do it differently. And I think for those two schools, it makes a lot of sense. As to when they would have done this for Matt Campbell, that's where I don't like. Yeah, either way, Penn State wasn't a win for them. Good for Iowa State, probably, in the long run. Sucks to be Wazoo because it does make you kind of feel like you're not necessarily going into the Pac-11. It may not exactly be how you want to start it. Tulane.
I remember the coach. You're about to get to him, Will Hall, yeah.
Okay, so Tulane promotes Will Hall to head coach instead of hiring Coach O. Will Hall was not the OC, but the passing game coordinator of the Tulane program this season. I don't know a lot about Will Hall unless you can jog my memory.
No, but he did not have a good end of, I believe, he did not have a good tenure at Southern Miss as their head coach. So Will
Southern
Hall,
Miss, both of these guys, Southern Miss, just a hot topic today.
Yeah, so Southern Miss, his first season, 7-6 as the full-time head coach in the Sun Belt. In the Conference USA, he led them to a 3-9 record, right? So he goes 3-9, 7-6.
Got you.
But then, right, the next 2 seasons, he wins 3 games in total. So before getting fired, I believe he had fired in 2024. So he goes 3-9 in 2023, 1-6 in 2024, gets fired. Finishes his career at Southern Miss 14-30, 8-19 in conference play. The saving grace for him, I guess you would say, is before, when he was in the FCS at West Alabama and West Georgia, he had a decent record, 25-11 at West Alabama, 31-9 in his time at West Georgia. Mm-hmm. Although each stop he did not have a strong finish. So I think Tulane made the wrong decision, and we're going to see that play out really
right. And the rumors were heavy on the Ed Ogeron thing, and I think he was even campaigning for it publicly, which might have honestly hurt him a little bit. But either way, we get closer and closer to a funny world where Ed Ogeron is still a vital candidate in a coaching carousel that should have already stopped, and we thought already stopped, and then today might have just turned back to 100 miles an hour. But we'll get to that in a second. Scar poaches TCU's offensive coordinator. to the same role with them. This is a name familiar here, not only to the locals of the Fort Worth area, but to my homeland of Waco, Texas. This is Kendall Briles, not Art. Obviously, Art has been banished to the Shadow Realm for some time now. Interesting choice here for Scar, whom probably are going to not have Lenora Sellers either way, regardless of what happens. It feels like the tea leaves say Lenora Sellers doesn't stay at Scar. Seems like a lot of TCU folks aren't super bummed out here.
No, I've seen a lot of slander from TCU fans.
But I do. It is an interesting one. And then you have UNT poaching Baylor's defensive coordinator, Matt Pallage, to the same role here. And this is an interesting conversation to have.
Yes.
Because Baylor's going through a lot of changes. The Dave Aranda made it through the coaching carousel, the early parts, without being fired. Like Dave Aranda, I don't know that he's being set up for success, which makes me favor him a little bit more than maybe I would regularly. At the end of the day, though, the athletic director leaves in this really unceremonious way that, not like Sharon Moore, where we're going to talk all about what happened to him. This guy leaves unceremoniously with a lot of rumors swirling around it, but because he's, one of the executives, we don't know what's happening to him. He manages to save his reputation, I guess. Either way, the new guy is good with Chip and Joanna, swear to God. And his last big job was running Field and Streams magazine. So McLean Stadium, all this money put into this big, beautiful stadium, looks great off the highway. Every time I come home, I'm like, this is pretty cool. I got to admit. And I think that Baylor football's back to being a money laundering scheme for the basketball team, for the track team, for everything. I think that they've soft quit a little bit on their attempts to be a power program. I think that there will be good Baylor seasons, but they will be few and far between.
Which would explain why North Texas was able to poach a coach from a Power 5 conference.
And hey, maybe North Texas is also looking at programs like Baylor that haven't taken serious enough leaps forward and saying, hey, maybe we can be in the second tier of Texas schools. They hired the director of scouting for the University of Texas, Aaron Joe, to be the new general manager of the Mean Green football machine. And most importantly, this guy comes from Georgia Tech prior and then Alabama before that. So, look, it doesn't mean he's going to be great at it. But it's like, hey, if that's pretty – you can't hate that resume as a fan.
And listen, we're getting guys in the as more news comes out of who's coming in onto the Neil Brown staff. I'm like, all right, I feel a little more positive because we're getting guys who've been at the big schools and the big programs. Now, they won't have the same resources they did at those schools.
No, a lot of rehab projects for sure from the coaching side.
But it just feels like we're about to be the beneficiaries of people who have something to prove. And they've proved it before at bigger programs. You could do it at the smaller schools. Can you talk to, kids in the transfer portals? Because that's where UNT is going to got a lot of their success from this year was the transfer portal. Can you do it again? Or are you bringing in kids locally in the area or even from Central Texas, which is also its own sort of a hotbed, right? I mean, listen, not everybody in Central Texas can go to the University of Texas.
No, it's a big recruiting area.
So
the running back coach with Texas have also parted ways. I forgot his name. That's a potential lookout, but I don't know. I mean, we have our own guy here at Cobb. Is Cobb leaving? I would. I don't
know because Cobb. I mean, he might leave if he doesn't get some sort of like a promotion or something. Because listen, he is a North Texas.
He's been doing his job.
He's been doing his job. He did a great job with Caleb Hawkins. Again, I don't know how much position coaches really matter in terms of when a player has success. We always question when a player isn't having success, what that position coach is doing. So I'm going to say he's a net positive, and hopefully,
I would prefer to keep Cobb there.
Yeah.
But whatever, we'll see. Utah might have sold out the entire collegiate athletics as we know it. There's been a lot of doom and gloom in the NIL transition. We might actually get our first legitimate one. They have announced a deal with Otro, I guess. Ortho Capital, Orthopedic Capital. No, I don't know.
Something. It's private equity.
When it says capital, you know to bear and grin it.
Yeah, I don't like this,
has
man.
now entered the chat, and the Saudis are next, I'm sure. And I mean, look, there's so much shamelessness going on in college football. Once we get to the final story here, I mean, it's hard for me to play the moral police with college football, but
this is less of morals, and this is more of just reading the tea leaves and comparing it to when private capital enters the chat in anything that people like. They make it worse. They strip down everything that makes it good, make it worse, take their money, and leave the carcass behind for everybody else to try to either fix it or forget it. And I hate that the fact that this is happening. Like this is just the first domino effect.
And I'm very interested to see how it affects the college football system, because it's one of the few systems that private equity can affect that will actually piss off rich old white dudes. So maybe a backfire here. I don't know. UNLV athletics department also decides that it's going to be the first program to do a program patch. So now 5 million or 5 years for $11 million. Basketball, both the basketball teams, the baseball team, and the football team will now have. I didn't even write the company's name down. So there's your sponsorship money right there to jerk off.
Yeah, I don't love that, but it's better than in the equity deal. That's for sure.
It's the coming of it's just the wave. That's the reason I bring it up. Another sign of the times. Georgia breaks its deal with Louisville and NC State. Another sign of the preseason. The 9-game slate, the college football playoff committee. Preseason college football is here. Let's schedule 3 FCS teams a year. Fuck it. Penn State, they're going to let their defensive coordinator walk. Interesting, because he was a big steal. This was Ohio State's defensive coordinator prior. After winning a title, this guy bounced to Penn State. Shocked the world. Then his coach got fired, and then the whole program went into flames. Who wins? Tennessee Volunteers. I'm impressed. I thought this was a really cool thing for Tennessee. They suck defensively, and Josh Heupel has made this team way more interesting than they've been in my adult life, for sure. Maybe my entire life, because I was too young for the Peyton Manning stuff. But this is an impressive get for them, I would think. They still got to recruit the kids, but this is spinning it in the most positive way. You somehow just got a title-winning defensive coordinator. Forget the last year of his career. It wasn't necessarily his fault. There's a lot going on. But here you go. And it's tough for Matt Campbell, but I'm sure that was probably already a foregone conclusion by the time he got in the picture. The full news of the day that we need to get into, and then we can get into the pro of it all. Sharon Moore. Today we were minding our own business, having a moment, having a spot of tea, getting the rundown together.
That's right.
Checking Twitter too much, when all of a sudden Michigan has fired Sharon Moore.
They did what?
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah, I mean, in this is a fun college football story all over. First, we have the oldest story in college football history. Coach gets fired for inappropriate relationship.
Can't keep it in their pants.
This one, a staffer, is just how they're labeling it. The allegations are aplenty. Social media is a buzz. Unfortunately, someone who works for the school has already had to put their social media accounts on private as a result. So I'm not going to really play that version of the game. I am going to enjoy Mr. Sharon Moore here just for a second. There's the bigger graphic. If this is him this is after a celebratory win, he cried, and then of course you have to do this edit nowadays, right? And that's Sharon Moore, the Ime Udoka of college football now. Although I guess the staffer, who does she know? Who either way, doesn't matter. We don't care about that much. Trust me, if you want to know more about the story, there are plenty of people theorizing all the angles. I think the only part of that I find interesting is how many people have had the tea leaves and for how long they've had the tea leaves, because I'm interested. Was this the fireable offense, or was it losing to Ohio State in a disappointing season? I do have interesting questions because
I'd say little column A, little column B.
And that's probably fair. If you're looking at it from the less pessimistic side, you'll say, but Michigan was still recruiting well. Michigan was in a down year, only lost 3 games. Still almost made the playoff as a team that really didn't look that good all season.
And don't forget, they got Bryce Underwood, the number one quarterback in his class.
Bryce Underwood. I mean, they were doing all the things they were doing. Okay, you lost to Ohio State, but after beating them for however many years straight, and then again, you're recruiting well. This team is still way better than it should be for a down year. So part of me gives them the benefit of the doubt. The other part of me wonders, is this not just the best excuse to fire a coach you don't like or one that you think is underperforming? Whether they are or not, obviously, like I said, I don't think he was underperforming, especially given the situation he was handed, right? They're getting sanctions thrown on them as the old coach is like, Yeah. So like you have to wonder like where that stands here. It reminds me a lot of the Ed Ogeron hire, as I talked about, our firing. It reminds me a lot of the jokes he made about Lane Kiffin being divorced and how much of an advantage that is in modern college football, where these guys are just, oh my God, so close to just fucking it off every time. Or is it more like?
They put up with way worse for way longer. I feel
is it just institutionalized blackmail, where like all of these coaches basically have a dossier that gets passed around all of these athletic departments, and they're like, all right, here's your in case of emergency button. I mean, it really feels like. I mean, there was a lot of stuff. Idiot Tom Herman. Whenever Tom Herman got fired at Texas, I think we finally got the real, what we kind of knew was going on, but like confirmation of a lot of how like unprofessional Tom Herman was as a head coach. And it's just one of those things that cracks me up, how quickly and flawlessly these things are sealed until they're not. Which again, if Bobby Petrino doesn't get in a car accident, Bobby Petrino's still probably coach at Arkansas. No, not technically anymore. I can't make that joke. It's officially done now.
Yeah.
But either way,
I'll think of it this way. I don't think his record is what got him fired, considering that they put up with Brady Hoke for 3 years of mediocrity. Right?
Again, but Brady Hoke comes in after after the Rich Rod thing goes.
It was Rich Rod, and then
Rich Rod. They had to replace. Rich Rod was like I said, I don't think I have much of a defense for firing him for performance. So I do believe them that and when they say cause, like I do believe that their hand was forced here. The timing of it is very interesting though, because it seems almost disadvantageous. You're at a disadvantage right now doing it, but do they have Kalen DeBoer on the phone? Are they already making a deal with Barstool to make sure John Gruden can be their coach? Which sounds terrible if you're, a fan of the team, but it's true to think about. Brian Kelly. Are you stuck with Brian Kelly now? That's crazy. Are you stuck with Ed Ogeron, who I like, but at the same time, that isn't going to make you feel better, right? But maybe there's some argument that Ed is a good Band-Aid coach. And then, dude, what about Chip Kelly? What if this ends in you getting Chip Kelly?
I don't think it ends with Chip. I think Chip Kelly is done.
Chip Kelly just won an. No, you're
No,
not
no,
looking
no,
at
not
this from.
as a head coach in college football. I think he walked away from being a head coach to go
To
be an
be
offensive coordinator
at a school where he dissed the program's spending. You don't do that at Michigan. Michigan, you do get the spending, and then he won a title with Ohio State with the 1 year.
Yeah, but he's a mediocre coach. I'm
I'm
gonna
not
slander his name
disagreeing,
forever.
but fool's gold is always worth more in college football.
Perhaps.
The kids get 15 days to transfer window that pops up after coach gets fired. So we'll see what happens to Bryce Underwood and all the rest of the Michigan Wolverines. Getting into football, that actually did happen this week. Conference USA was settled. Kennesaw State is your champion. Sun Belt goes to JMU, obviously. We'll talk more about them. The Mountain West went to Boise for the final time as they go into the Pac-11 or whatever the fuck. That also is notable because UNLV won 10 games this season and tried to make the argument that they should be in, but it's like, I don't know. Then we have the ACC, American Conference game. So we got to talk about that one a little bit. UNT did good ultimately. 34-21 loss. Turnovers just ransacked this group. I mean, yeah, I get the grievances with the officiating
because it was bad.
But
they didn't do themselves any favors, man.
5 turnovers is just indefensible, my man. And in a game where they actually, I felt like, kept this thing manageable, even had a chance to make a comeback in this one. Just could not get over the hump of giving the ball up.
It came down to 3 things, right? Like you said, turnovers. Turnovers are killer. 2, and this one we already knew coming into the game, right? That defense was shaky. Like, it was a defense that relied on turnovers to get off the field, right? Or it relied on their offense just outscoring the hell out of the other team. And so they could just pin their ears back and not necessarily have to worry about being the most technically sound defense. And then the spotty officiating, right? You can always overcome 2 of those 3, but you can't overcome all 3 in these games, and they hit all 3, right? They turned the ball over. Can't do that. Can't get off the field on defense. You're not going to win anything. And then sometimes the calls are not going to go your way. Now, there's nothing you can really do about that, right? That one's out of your control, but you can control the other 2. You can definitely control the other 2. They weren't able to, and unfortunately, a historic season ends. A historic regular season ends. In
the Albuquerque Bowl.
Yeah, with the New Mexico Albuquerque whatever bowl. Which, by the way, that's probably my biggest grievance. I'm like, wait, no. This is an 11-2 team and a 9-3 team, and they're playing in fucking New Mexico.
If Michigan says no, do we get to go play Texas in the Cheez-It Bowl?
That doesn't get to happen, unfortunately, because they already agreed to go.
Oh, okay. Well, either way. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have much else to say. I think part of me is happy that we get an opportunity to just get the bowl win and move on with the season. We'll see what Neil Brown has in store. And, again, it's about investing. It's about not losing more than 6 games next season, if I'm being honest. That's really my marker for next season. And
notably, everybody but Eric Morris on the coaching staff will be available for the bowl game, which gives me a lot of hope that the team can.
No word on Mestamaker or Hawkins at this point. I don't believe, right?
Not yet. Keep my fingers crossed.
We also have a young quarterback that we don't necessarily hate. It was like 3-star kid. I think they were able to sneak in, but I think he'd be a true freshman starting. So if that happens again, Mestamaker decides to transfer, then.
Are you talking about the short guy?
Yeah, he's a small guy, but he runs. Yeah, he'll be a speedster.
It'll be interesting, but just to kind of, I guess, put a cap on the North Texas Mean Green season, right? To all my fellow Mean Green alums, fans, don't take this season for granted because this has literally never happened before, right? We don't know what the Neil Brown era is going to be. Now, we do know his history prior to him at West Virginia, what he did at Troy, incredible things. Right, that's not a big money program. That's not a program that usually gets the biggest and best of recruits, especially because they're in Alabama. They have to fight SEC schools for kids. Usually get like the 3-star leftovers who just can't make it onto the team. They get some transfers in from other kids, and he built a respectable program. You hope that he can do the same. We're thankful for Eric Morris, what he was able to do. He brought the Mean Green to new heights we have never seen before. He put hope into a fan base that never really knew what that was.
Oh, they squabbling. Sorry. They're squabbling.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good. And aside from that, right, you saw something that you never saw before, and that was buy-in from the student body, buy-in from the local community. And now you're getting buy-in from the university, or prior you've gotten buy-in from the university. Now it's trickled down all throughout. And so whatever happens, right, whether you lose, whether you keep Mestamaker, you don't keep Mestamaker, whether Eric Morris takes, a chunk of the roster with him, you have hope that you can do this again, right? Because now you have proof of concept. Now you have seen with your own eyes the North Texas Mean Green. They were ranked in the AP poll. They were ranked in the CFP poll. They
finished both the season.
And they finished both the season ranked. Like that doesn't happen here. And on top of this, right? On top of you're finishing with these ranked, you were in conversations, legitimate, serious conversations, to be one of the 12 teams.
Well, you
vying for a chance.
You just win a game. Yeah. It's not a conversation. You're in.
Yeah. You win, you're in. You're one of 12 teams that gets to play for the national title. Let me repeat that. The national title. North Texas Mean Green and national title never, ever go together. Right? It's just not a thing, realistically. But it became a reality. You weren't able to finish it, but it was something that could have actually happened, where the North Texas Mean Green get to be in the dance, right? Yeah, nobody had any expectations of going far in the dance, but you would have.
Yeah, you would have gotten a game for sure, and hopefully it stays that way, where there's an opportunity for the group of 5 to make it. I think it'll be fun, but again.
I'm just trying to say this was a beautiful season, and hopefully through the Neil Brown era, we can continue to build on this, and maybe one day we again can have this conversation in our lifetimes, because there's been many Mean Green that came and gone and never saw this.
But not to spoil the party, I think all you have to do is win the American. At this point, I think that even if
you got to win the American with a respectable record.
You're right. The American has to live up to itself. You're right, but I do think that ultimately we will probably have a situation more like college basketball, where the group of 5 will get their honorary nominees, and if they do anything, they do anything. But most likely they're not. The MAC all the Saturday games are MAC champion is Western Michigan. BYU got their butts kicked by Tech. Big 12 really looking like a one-team conference right now. We'll see what next year holds. SEC, Dogs, Bama, that was a pretty big beating, more or less. 28-7's the only representative score. So that was a tough one. Indiana Hoosiers won an epic game against the Ohio State Buckeyes. Epic game. 13-10. We're talking gross football, but really great.
Great defensive battle.
Fernando Mendoza probably locked in the Heisman, even though I'd still probably vote Jordan Love right now.
I think the betting favorite's Diego Pavia, actually.
If Diego Pavia is the betting favorite, then everyone is actually smoking crack. Fernando Mendoza had 2 of the best ball fades to end that game. I mean, it was the touchdown to go up, and then the one to seal it, to get the first down to seal and run the clock out. Those were absolutely impeccable pro throws. I don't think I was as high as him being the first round pick or being the number 1 overall quarterback next year until that game. And then I was like, maybe there's something here. Maybe this guy is pretty damn good with the football.
Correction. After the game, it swung back in Fernando Mendoza's favor.
Okay, whatever. Whoever had Diego Pavia is fucking on crack cocaine, but whatever. Johnny Manziel clone's almost out of my face. The AAC conference game was quite funny. This one came down to an overtime win for the Duke Blue Devils, 27-20. Would you be shocked if I told you that Chandler Morris interception is the reason that the Virginia Cavaliers are not playing in the playoff right now?
No, because I saw him play for my school.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough, man. He's had a hell of a career. You think about it. Started with TCU, going to the championship, and then getting fucking absolutely wrecked, and then coming down the pike and eventually making your way over to Virginia to have this really fun end of your career. And it just, you had to force the throw. He always had to force the throw.
Hey, man, shout out to those Duke Blue Devils, man. That was the funniest outcome of championship.
And the fact that they thought that they actually had a spot was absolutely amazing, too. I appreciate that sort of irrational confidence. I mean, part of me wondered, but I was pretty confident they weren't getting a spot. By the way, we'll just jump into that.
I know that they were not deserving of a spot based on their record. However, because the CFP is run by people who don't know how to have fun, it would have been incredible content, incredible, if an 8-5 conference champion, by the way, of a Power 4, Power 5 conference, whatever, got in and say somebody else from that was ranked, was left out. I will, and I'm going to die on this hill because we're going to get into it. Miami, who did not compete for their own conference championship, has not won a conference championship since 2003? Yeah, should not be in the college football playoff. Canes fans, kiss my ass. Your team does not deserve to be in it. Yet you are.
They got an interesting draw. Yeah, I mean, look, we need to get into it now. So Notre Dame and BYU are the first two out. Texas is the third team out, I suppose, and then Vanderbilt was the fourth team out, if you want to look at it that way. I only say that just because I do think it was interesting that they decided that Texas's 3 losses were not as important as their win over Vandy, of course, but then that Brigham Young deserved to be the second out. It doesn't matter who was first team out. You're all out. That's the point. Feels like the playoffs will expand. We found out that Notre Dame also has a contract that allows them to automatically be in if they're the top 12 team and the playoff expands next year.
Weak shit.
So that's an interesting one. That's an interesting one that came out. Our first round matchups are set. We have very interesting games here. We have not such interesting game to start. Oregon, James Madison. With all due respect to JMU, would love to see how well they take that one on. Bob Chesney's probably thinking pretty hard about his future right now, so that is a weird spot. Ducks are important. Ducks are impressive. Gotta feel like the Ducks roll that ass.
Ducks are, I think, the dark horse team to win it all.
Could be. Tulane versus No Lane. I stole that, but it's kind of clever. I like it. If people are wearing that shirt, that's a good one. 16-11 Ole Miss gets to host Tulane, so no punishment for Lane leaving. But ultimately, this is an interesting one. You also make your interim your full-time coach. That's probably a good call going into this one. The other guy has got a foot out the door to Florida on the other side of the field. So, it's a weird one again. I don't know that this field is going to help the argument for the group of 5, but I think part of me is going to be rooting for Tulane to at least make this one good, if not win. Just for the love of God, so that we don't get iced out of the thing moving forward.
I think both teams to really put on a good showing where you can't have somebody in.
Just no 70 to threes, please.
Yeah, listen, if you lose 50 to 35, that's a great showing. Please. Okay.
That's a crazy one. Yeah. You want to get into a run and gun. And then we have the 7-10, the Aggies. Interesting draw for the Aggies. I think that there's definitely a lot of argument to be unhappy.
This is going to be a hate watch for me. This one right here, the 7-10 matchup, this is the biggest hate watch for me.
It's really a quarterback showdown in the funniest way possible because I like both defenses here. I like the playmakers for both teams. I find myself wondering who the better quarterback is often, most of the time, when I'm watching these two teams play.
Which is really funny considering how much football Carson Beck has played compared to Marcel Reed.
I think I go Marcel Reed in this game, but it's not by a lot.
And you know what? I think that is more damning on Carson Beck than anything. Because when you say you're not totally confident, right? This guy's what, a fifth-year senior? Yeah, fifth-year senior. He's played for Georgia. He's played in a national title game.
He's slow, bro. Like, he's got decent talent. It's really not that. It's just his processing is trash.
Yeah, and he's just.
He's had our words.
He's had a steady decline from his championship season at Georgia to now. Right, he's just gotten worse. And yeah, man, Miami, hey, good luck. You don't deserve to be here. I will continue to say that.
At the same time, you probably have a decent shot to upset Texas A&M.
Yeah, and then
better than you deserve. Because we still need to test Texas A&M. Like, sure, you lost the one game to your rival. We could call it that. After a lot of near misses, now you're refreshed. Now that the perfect record's off, now you can play free. You didn't have to deal with Georgia in the SEC game. All of that's a win. At the same time, here you go. The Miami Hurricanes, a team that most people picked as the best team 3-4 weeks into this season. And other than 2 very disappointing days, they have been a really talented and interesting group. So we will see who the fraud is, I suppose, in that one. And then the funniest game by a large country mile is Oklahoma-Bama rematch in Norman, Oklahoma. Nobody wanted Bama in. Bama got in anyway. Potentially even Kalen DeBoer didn't want Bama in, but Bama's in anyway. Everyone's making jokes, and I'm just sitting here like, I actually might take Bama. Oklahoma's proven me wrong. Oklahoma's proven me wrong plenty of times, but I do feel like unless the DeBoer situation's about to explode, I really do kind of have an interest in what Bama can do in a rematch here, because I felt like they really put the game away for themselves in Norman as much as anything. At the same time, -3 yards rushing ain't going to do it, and you play a team like that.
Well,
makes me very worried about your ability.
I don't know if you saw this, and I don't see it. I don't know if it got reported anywhere else, so maybe it's just misinformation. But apparently Ty Simpson's been playing with an injured back. So
yeah, I mean, that's very likely the way the performance has been going on.
Yeah, and so if that's the case, then OU has the advantage in this matchup, right? And this is just not interesting to me. This is not. I didn't want to see a rematch. I don't think Alabama deserves to be in here.
It's a fair angle.
All right, I look at this and I'm like, listen, Bama's probably the better team talent wise compared, but like, shit, throw in Vandy or throw in somebody else. I don't know who else was on the bubble, but like BYU or something. But just give me something more than Bama. Bama does not deserve to be in there. Their losses, it's a 3-loss team. We've seen other teams get penalized for 3 losses. Why not Bama? Let's look at this schedule, by the way. They got blown out. By the way, I'm tired of the CFP being so blatantly hypocritical where they're like, well, we can't penalize them for getting blown out in a conference title game, but you did do that to BYU. So they're just so blatantly open about how just hypocritical they are, and there's a double standard. You lose to Florida State, your opening game, right? Do these losses not matter? Like, Florida State is a bad team. You lose by double digits, by the way. And then sure, they go on a run, they beat Vandy, so they got the head-to-head, so you can kind of say, well, Vanderbilt lost that one, so their head-to-head matters. But I'm like, yeah, but so does record, and one team finished with 2 losses, the other one with 3. I don't know, man. I hate that Bama's in here because it just reinforces my belief that 12 teams is too much, and it should just be 8. Because realistically, only 8 really have a chance, in my opinion, of actually
Get ready
winning.
to learn expansion, buddy. That's all I got.
Oh, I've already accepted that's the outcome. It's just disgusting that we have to accept it.
But we do, and that is the reality. The games are the 19th and the 20th, so we probably won't have we won't have anything really to talk about but the preview of that, I guess, by next week. So college football is pretty much wrapped up, other than just the playoff games as they come.
Also, we should be disparaging more. I know the internet's done it plenty with Notre Dame, but we should do it a little bit more.
Oh yeah, Notre
They
Dame
should
quit
be
on their bowl
shamed.
game. Yeah, they did. They did quit on the bowl game. We should remember.
Quit on their bowl game, and they are bitching and moaning and whining about missing the playoff. Their AD's out here looking like a toddler. It's like the ACC is irreparably, damaged our relationship. I'm like, you're not in the conference for football. You're only in the conference for every other sport. Why would they support you? Tell me, Notre Dame AD, whose name I can't remember. Why would they support you? They were pushing for their team, Miami, right? Like they were not disparaging you to hype Miami up. They're just hyping Miami up, and you just happen to be part of their schedule. So, I don't know. Join a conference. This whole if we're ranked in the top 12, we should automatically be in. All right. Well, guess what, Notre Dame? You should be punished even more for losing to non-ranked teams than other teams in other conferences, because your schedule is going to be so much weaker than everybody else. Next season, I believe they only have 3 road games. That's a joke.
I mean, they're going to keep getting away with it. And like I said, if anything, I think this helps my conversation with making sure we protect the group of 5. I'm fine with the expansion. Make sure that the Big Ten and the SEC get all of their best teams in. Maybe this season's an outlier and we only need 14, whatever. But give the opportunity for talented 4th or 5th teams or 6th teams if it's so stacked. I mean, look, objectively, the SEC was incredibly stacked this year. They will be most of the time. If it's not them, it's probably the Big Ten. I don't want it to always be this way, but if it is, we do want to have that saving grace. And the bowl games are meaning less and less. They're clusterfucky, so maybe that's an answer. Maybe it's also just reality that at least for the big schools who don't have to campaign, I think maybe championship games go away. Maybe the Big 12, or the Power 4 schools or the Power 4 conferences all decide that we don't need this week anymore. It's only hurting us, or it's not providing us any positive thing. Money is weird on that one, sponsorships and all that stuff. But we are the wild, wild west of college football. Anything can happen. So the only thing you can expect is probably what you don't want to happen, because it's about the dollar bills, y'all.
And in that sense, I guess and I don't want to do it, although I don't really have an issue with this school because they've been the littlest of little brothers for so long. But a part of me kind of wants to pull for Texas Tech for that reason of, Big Ten, SEC. Like, hey, fuck these 2 conferences. Like we see them play every year now. It's either
let us finish on this part about this. There was a guy trying to make clicks by saying that there's a health risk to a group of 5 school playing in the college football playoff.
Oh my God.
That's pretty crazy and disrespectful.
100%, yeah.
At the same time, there is a difference, as we've noted, about the odds of these teams winning. And I really look at Texas Tech with the opportunity to play highly likely Oregon, going to be tough. Oregon's doable. Then you're looking at Bama, Oklahoma, Indiana. Tech is going to have a great year regardless. At the end of the day, I still have some questions about how deep they are at the same positions as everyone else. I am completely aware of how dominant they are and how much better they are than the rest of their conference. Now I need to see where they actually rank. But yeah,
and we'll get that. We'll see how much that oil money has really benefited this program.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw this in the conference after the conference title game. Somebody asked their linebacker, their star linebacker, Jacob Rodriguez, about the team being bought, right? And I believe his response, and I like this response. He's like, "Well, if you're going to spend the money, why wouldn't you get the best team money could buy?" And I was like, "That's a good response, kid. I like that. I like that attitude. Because if you're going to be so open about buying these rosters,
well, we'll see how long they continue. Like I said, they had the most money this year. Let's see how it continues.
And we'll say this: defense travels, and defense sometimes does translate, and that's the calling card of this Texas Tech Red Raider team. It's not the offense.
No, we'll see. We will see. All right, let's wrap it up. I'm actually going to break this up into two for easier for Patrick.
Word. All right. We'll see you on the pro side.
Bro it.